Hey everybody, today we're going to work on skeletons. Now, we're working on skeletons to help us build a human form. Now, a lot of our drawing and stuff that we do where we're trying to draw people, it's going to be better if you can figure out what's inside your body. So learning how to draw a skeleton and look at all those things that are inside that build up our body, like our ribs, those things are actually going to help you become a better artist. Now, most of you probably started by drawing people like this. You get a round head, stick body, 2 legs, and 2 arms. Okay, well, that's what you've done. You've got your stick person, but let's look. That neck is super long, and there's no shoulders. Where are their shoulders? And if we look over here, there's also no hips. There's nothing to give their body any size. They are literally a stick figure. Also, we're missing feet and hands. There's a lot of components that we need to take into consideration here. So no, we're not going to keep drawing with stick figures. We need to do a little bit better. Now, maybe this is how you got a little better. Some people started drawing bubble heads, bubble bodies, and arms and legs. This is great. You've actually got some size to your body now, but there's still no hands. So where are those? And where are the feet? Also, when we draw our bubble bodies like this, where's the neck? Yeah, so this is better. It's somewhat more like us because everybody has a different body shape. But sticks and bubble figures are okay, but this right here, learning to draw a skeleton and pay attention to where bones are and where those structures are in our body, that is what's going to help us become a much better artist, at least when it comes to drawing people. Now, those things work. It's okay. You can draw the stick figures. But today, this is what we're practicing, is drawing the skeleton that is inside your body so that hopefully you'll have a better understanding of how to draw people. Now, you can draw today. Grab your supplies. You can draw on regular white paper. I'm going to draw on the notebook paper because these lines actually help us. The lines are going to help guide everything. So when we start, I'm going to show you where to draw some of these guidelines. So I'm also drawing in marker. You don't have to draw in marker. Actually, I'm going to recommend that you draw with a pencil. So grab an eraser, any kind of pencil, mechanical or regular one. So here in a little bit, I'm going to have you get started. Go ahead and grab your supplies. This is the time. Like, you seriously need to go get your stuff. You can pause it here while I clean up my mess from earlier. Okay. Okay, so here we go. I've got my stuff. Again, I've got the plain white paper that is going to work, but today specifically, I highly recommend that you use paper with lines. So the notebook paper, we're going to use those lines to help give us some guidelines. That's where the word comes from, guidelines. They're lines that help guide you. All right, I've got my eraser here, but I'm not going to be using that today. I'm going to be using my marker. Also, I'm using elementary ruled paper, so that means my lines are a little bit further apart than college ruled paper. Again, not super important, but it does help space out our paper. First, I'm going to count down from the top. 1, 2, 3. So that third line, I'm going to draw a line that goes all the way across my paper. So 3 lines down from the top line, and I'm counting the top line there. 1, 2, 3. So now I'm counting down 5 lines. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There we go. And I'm going to draw a line there. And I'm going to repeat that. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And draw my line. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. If you need to pause and count these lines out, you go right ahead. I'm going to do one more. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There we go. That's our last one. And there's a little bit of a gap down at the bottom. All right, back up here, we've got these 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 sections, and then this smaller section at the bottom where the feet are going to be. So we have to start building our skeleton in these sections. We're going to start at the top. I'm starting with the skull. How I'm going to start, though, is I'm going to start with a square. Now, squares are all equal sides, and this is eyeballing it. I'm not getting a ruler out. I'm not measuring. That's just a quick look. So draw a square. Now, I'm going to draw a circle. I'm going to start with one side of my square and go up and around and come back to the other side of my square, but I'm actually going to go through it. Sometimes it's good to draw that circle multiple times, and if you're drawing with pencil, press down lightly at first, and then press down more hard as you're wanting to, as you really get the circle that you're looking for. Pause here. Okay, no, don't actually pause. You still need to listen to me. At any point watching this video, you need to pause. That is fine. If I'm going too fast, hit that pause button. You might even have to rewind a little bit and watch a step again. That is okay. Back to this. Now I'm going to draw just a little rectangle that goes down to my next line. Now, not the line we drew, but the next line on my notebook paper. So there's our neck. And I'm going to draw a T. I'm going to draw a line that goes across the bottom of that new rectangle that makes our neck. And there where my two rectangle lines are, I'm going to count down to the line just above, so down to there. Yeah, and it makes this triangle shape. Now that triangle shape, that's your sternum, that's the middle of your chest. So hopefully you've got that triangle shape down. Now on the end of each of my lines that I made, now those lines should go a little bit wider than your skull. And then I'm going to add a circle to each side. These are going to be our shoulders. Now that you've got a circle on each side, I'm going to start underneath those circles and I'm going to make this heart shape. It's going to come down and loop back up to the tip of my triangle. It's going to go down and loop back up to the tip of my triangle. This is the upper part of our body. So this is going to end up being our ribs. Now underneath, I'm going to follow back down. I'm going to come down to, let's see here, 1, 2, 3. Yep, lines underneath that second line that we drew, 1, 2, 3. This is going to be our backbone, our spine. Now in front of our spine is going to be our hips. This is going to be your pelvis. It's the big bone that makes up where your legs connect to the rest of your body. And I'm making this heart shape. See that kind of curve that's like a start to a heart? And I go to the other side and I do the same thing. Now, it is really pretty much just the start to a heart. You can make these wider. I wouldn't make them much more narrow than this. And I'm gonna bring my line a little bit below, but then I'm not gonna connect them. They're not gonna make a heart. Instead, I'm gonna make another little bubble shape that comes off and back to the middle. And it almost looks more like a butterfly. Now that I've got this butterfly shape, I'm going to add these circles to each side. If you think of the circles where the wings meet on the butterfly, maybe that'll help you. Those circles, that's where your hips attach to your body. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go straight down from those circles and draw a triangle. I'm going to do this on both sides and make sure it's on that fourth line. It's about where we want it to be. That fourth line, there we go, boom. There's another triangle under my other one. And what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna connect them. I'm gonna draw a line that comes down and it loops around the side of my triangle. Down and loops around the side. Now I'm gonna do that to the other side. Down and loop around the side of the triangle. One more time, down and loop around the side of the triangle. Once you've got that, we're going to go down below, and right on top of that last line that we made, we're going to put a circle. Now we have to connect our triangles in the circle. So I'm going to draw a tube that's going to come down and I curve right back up. I don't pick my marker up at all. I go down and then I come right back up. So it's like a really long oval that's skinny. Then I'm going to make one that curves. And it's even skinnier than the first tube that I made. So there's another one that curves. Next up, I'm going to add another circle right here. Now this circle, it can be about the same size or a little bit bigger, and that's going to be your heel. And then I'm going to draw this triangle. That triangle is going to be the rest of your foot. So this is a little bit of a shortcut, and that's okay. Once you've got your circles and triangles, we're going to come back up to the shoulders. I'm going to count down, and right about at the bottom of your ribs, under that second line that we drew, is going to be roughly where your elbow is. So I'm going to draw two circles that are going to be our elbow, and then I'm going to connect our two circles by drawing lines to them. So one line and two lines. Two lines from each of the shoulders down to where the elbows are. Now we need our hands. So I'm going to go down, and our hands usually line up about where our hip is. So I'm going to come down, and about where our hip is, I'm going to add another circle. So these basic shapes are going to help us make our skeleton. And I'm going to make a 2, that long skinny oval again, and another one that curves, kind of like we did down on the legs. So long skinny oval. And then instead of drawing my circle down here next to the hip, I'm going to come back and I'm going to draw this square. We're going to talk more about that in a little bit. So just a square. And then I'm going to draw these tiny little ovals. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now, 1, 2, 3, 4 again. And the last one, I'm actually going to do really small ovals that are basically circles on each of those lines. Then I'm going to add another circle and another circle there. I'm going to talk more about those parts in a little bit. Now up here, I'm actually going to bend my arm. Instead of keeping it straight down, I'm going to make it go up and to the side a little bit. I draw my tube, I draw my circle, and don't forget that bendy one. Now, on top of my circle, I'm going to add my square again, just like I did for the other hand. So this square that I used is actually a shortcut. It's the palm of our hand. It's the big part of your hand. Notice it makes kind of a square shape. Now, I'm going to add those ovals. 1, 2, 3, 4. Those ovals are the first parts of our fingers. It's the first section. So now we need to do the second section. 1, 2, 3, 4. And then our fingertips. And these are going to be even smaller. So 1, 2, 3, 4. And then we've got our thumb. Our thumb is a special one. It's not actually a finger, some people say. It has 2 parts instead of 3, which is why it's different. And again, we draw a little oval with a little circle on top for those 2 digits. Now, I've got my skeleton that's posing. Let's go ahead and give him a smile. So where we drew that circle through the square, that's actually going to be his mouth. Just add some lines that go up and down to give him some teeth. At the top of our square on the inside, I'm going to make that little dart, like a little upside down V. And then I'm going to go above the square, so it's going to look like a really skinny triangle. That is going to be our skeleton's nose. Now to each side of the nose, I'm going to draw these circles. Now they're not perfect circles, and they're not really ovals either. They're kind of like an egg shape. And I'm going to color those in. Also, I'm going to come back and I'm going to add some ribs or some curved lines that we're going to pretend are ribs. This is not super accurate. I have to tell you this. I'm not actually counting the number of ribs I'm drawing. I'm just adding them there to help us see that that's what they're supposed to be. So there's our ribs. And the part you can't see, oh, I forgot to add this. So these 2 lines I just added, that's your collarbone. Now, I'm going to come back to this square idea, and down here the triangle. I skipped a lot of stuff, because in our hands and in our feet, there are tons of bones. There are lots of little bones inside our hands that make up all the connections that get all the way down to our fingers. And all of those little bones are what make our hands so flexible. But I'm not drawing that. I'm not drawing all those little bones. No. Same thing with your feet. I'm not drawing each of those little toes and the bones that go down that give your feet that curved shape. Now up here in your hips, those are actually some pretty big bones. And then same thing in your arms. That's just one big bone. And then there, pointed out right there, that's our sternum. And then I'm going to come back. I forgot to add some lines because your backbone's not one big bone. It's lots of little bones that are stacked on top of each other. Now, your skull is actually made of 2 parts. So those 2 parts, What we've got is the upper cranium, and then you've got your lower mandible. But again, this is way too much anatomy right now. Notice that the arms, and I pointed out the legs earlier, they've got these two bones. So there's one big bone. Out of those two bones, there's one big bone. And it kind of carries the weight, but the curved bone is what allows your arms and your legs to twist. So one of them makes it twist. That's what the curved bone is. It's more flexible. And then the straight one, that straight tube shape we made, is what carries all the weight. Now, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then we've got this little sixth section almost. But roughly everybody is about 5 heads tall when you're between the ages of like 5 and 11. Okay. As you get older, that number actually goes up. So by the time you're fully grown, you're usually going to be about 6 to 7 heads tall. So that's something to think about. Now, I'm actually going to take another piece of paper and I'm going to trace over my skeleton now. You can press it down and kind of see through. You can't see it super well here on mine, but that's what we're going to do. We're going to trace through our paper and see where our skeleton is and add the rest of our parts. So I can see where my skull had those 2 dark spots for the eyes. So I'm going to draw my eyes. I'm going to make my character look up towards the sky like, what is happening right now? Okay. And then I'm going to add the nose. The nose actually goes at the bottom of that dark triangle. I'm going to give my guy a mouth here. And then I'm going to trace around the bones. I'm not going to draw right on top of them, but as I trace, I'm going to trace around them. Hey, little pro tip here. Remember that arm was bent? That's why the sleeve doesn't look the same. Then I'm going to draw the arms and the hands. Don't forget the fingers and the thumb. Again, I'm not drawing right on top of the bones, but I am making sure that my body is going around them. So I'm going to bring my arm up, go around my hand, add my fingers, 1, 2, 3, 4, and a thumb. There it is. And as you draw your people, if you know where the skeleton is, and you practice like drawing clothes onto them, you've now got a more realistic human than those stick figures and everything that we looked at the beginning. I'm going to come in here and I'm going to add some shoes around my feet. Usually the shoes are a little bit bigger than your foot unless your shoes are way too tight. So let's come back. All of my skeleton here helped me build this person. Now eventually you don't have to draw a skeleton every single time you want to draw a person, but knowing where the skeleton is going to be a huge help. All right. I'm going to make my skeleton hold my marker there. There we go. So that's it. There's your skeleton. Hopefully you can go back and watch any parts that you missed. But practice this. Practice the skeletons. That's how you're going to get better. Practice is part of it, but also practicing by looking at something is going to be one of the best ways. You got to see it. I don't recommend getting an actual skeleton, but if you got books with skeletons in them, that's a great resource. Thanks for watching. I hope you had lots of fun. I know it's been a while since I've posted, but we'll see what we come up with in the future. If you like this format, please let me know down in the comments.